I appreciated that. I was still shaking in my boots about the invitation to go to the top of the offshore wind turbine. How frightening and paralyzing and inspiring. I'm going to be 50 soon. I got nothing. So I have to work on that. So my name is Jenny Linton. I'm the president of OSIsoft. And we are a software company that works with industrial users and using their data to optimize efficiency and capital utilization. So when many of us think of sustainability, we think of cars, electric cars. We think of eco-friendly homes. And we think of large open spaces that are publicly available. And when I think of sustainability, I think of big trucks. Those are people next to the wheels. It's like an apartment house. I think of data centers, and I think of manufacturing sites. And why? Because since 1980, OSIsoft has focused on these industries in power, water, manufacturing, mining, oil and gas, and more. Those are the screens at OSPAS that controls every drop of oil in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and that's our software. And I think this because I think the battle for sustainability will be won at the sites of these big industrial users. 54% of the world's energy production is used in heavy industry. And if we really want to become a sustainable environment, a sustainable world, we need to partner with these industries and with these sites to continue to reduce energy utilization. And it's going to be easier than we think because it makes economic sense. It's called natural capital. Actually, Lovins from the Rocky Mountain Institute instituted that word, natural capital, that we just talked about in the last talk. So what do I mean? I was recently here. This is the Deschambault aluminum plant, owned and operated by Alcoa in Quebec, Canada. They make 250,000 metric tons a year of aluminum. And these are processes that have hardly changed since 1906. What has changed about their process is how much energy they use. So currently at Deschambault, energy is about 30 to 40% of the production cost. And a 0.1% decrease in energy usage at that plant can lead to savings of $100,000 to $200,000 a year. So when we're looking at reducing energy in our homes, one home at a time, that doesn't seem like very much, but at a facility, this can be worth millions of dollars and millions of metric tons of CO2 as well. It's another site, Barrett Gold, largest gold mining company in the world. And they have set up an initiative recently to reduce the cost of gold extraction to $700 an ounce. They're doing some very innovative things around that, but the first thing they're doing is looking at their costs, which is in energy. And they're aiming to decrease those costs. They're also looking at what they call environmental deviations. And it's really important because Barrett Gold's employees live in the towns where their mines are operating. You know, they buy homes in these towns, they send their kids to school in these towns, and what harms the town harms the employees of Barrett Gold. So they're very proud to have reduced their emissions deviations by 45%, and they're working every day to reduce those more. And one thing I've learned in the decades working in this industry is that technology doesn't drive transformation, people drive transformation. And people have to look at these practices, look at these efficiencies and how to continue to increase them. It really takes people. And then, even if you have a good idea, you have to sell your idea to the rest of your company, which is not always very easy to do as well. So it takes people to drive these transformations. And one thing I've noticed in industry, if you think the software industry is not so well represented by women, the heavy industry, manufacturing, is also not so well represented by women. And we have a lot to do to move that. We found that in 2016 in the United States, only 20% of the engineering graduates are women, and only 13% of our professional engineers are women. That's a lot of people that we could bring over to our side in the work environment. But it starts with STEM education and building STEM careers. Just really can't do it any other way. So I know we all have our stories. Maybe 2 months ago, I went to UC Davis. I had a kid really young, of 17, so I spent quite a long time getting out of college and graduate school. So I was probably there for many years. But one of my best friends from graduate school, put the campus into her estate. And so we were invited to go meet the chancellor. Her husband wouldn't go. I can't imagine why. But so I went with her, and we had a table, and we were greeted by the head of the Department of Agriculture, the College of Agriculture at UC Davis. And I said, that's good. I worked in your department. And he said, what'd you do? And having had a career in academia, well, I worked in this department, this department, this department. But I ended up with a college degree in environmental toxicology and a master's degree in civil engineering and later an MBA. He goes, that's great. Do you work? And I thought, not only do I work, I do not want to send my money to UC Davis right now. So, do I work? So I have to get over that because I do want to send my money to UC Davis because they're going to increase this number for us. But that was a fun day. So how do we change these conversations? And I think change starts here, and change starts with sharing our stories, sharing our experiences, and supporting each other. It can be, you can not support each other, we can support each other, and I find that supporting each other makes for a much nicer environment. We started a Women in Technology group at OSIsoft. I guess it's called Women at OSIsoft. Several are here today. Thank you guys for coming. We did it to help recruit and attract talent, but also to build on the women that we have here at OSI and to create that network environment. It's been very nice. I think we're about 4 years in, and it's very nice. And we decided to start these events as well at our user conferences. And so in the spring, I had been to one, and I thought this is nice to meet the 10% of the women that are going into this conference at a different conference. And so we set it up in San Francisco, and by the time registration had closed, we had to change venues, and we had to ask our employees who wanted to attend and to kick them out because the interest was so great in our industrial base that we had to make space for our customers. So we had almost 100 people come to share their stories and talk about their own experiences. This is our most recent event here in London. We did one in London as well. And it's interesting to talk to our customer base. I went to a different mining company. They, company-wide, 9% women. In the world headquarters, 50% women. They have a head of diversity, and they are looking at how to create this kind of environment. It's kind of hard in the mining industry. But the head of diversity, who's probably at my stage in her career, she said, I have to tell you something. I'm from South America. I worked in a South American mine. I was a young mining engineer, and I was very excited. I was invited to go underground. So I went underground, and I went home, and my dad's a mining engineer. And I told my dad I'd gone underground, and I was so excited. And my dad looked at me and said, that's so sad. The mine will be forever barren. Because there's a superstition in South America that taking women underground leaves the mine barren. So like I said, even 20 years later, I'm looking across at these women. I'm like, how many of you have been underground? And happy to say, everyone but me had been underground. So turns out the mine is not barren. That was a falsehood. But can you imagine a daughter hearing that from her father? So we've come a long way. So whether we are looking at how to change an industrial process or how to expand the workplace for women, change happens. It does happen. It's happened in my career. And it happens one conversation at a time. So thank you for having me.